my name is Adam and welcome back to my channel where I make a tabletop role-playing game from scratch on camera. And today I've made a major advance in my RPG. I've had this core resolution mechanic in my game for a long time. You need 2 dice, a primary die and a secondary die. Both dice come from stats, skills, abilities, whatever. For instance, if you want to roll an attribute check, like climbing a wall, you use the attribute die from the body attribute as the primary die, and the skill die of your climb skill as your secondary die. The reason why I separate them into primary and secondary is because the primary is required while the secondary is not. If I don't have a climb skill, I don't have a secondary die. That's okay, it's just harder for me to succeed. If I don't have the body attribute, aka the primary die, I will automatically fail. This could happen if, for instance, I'm paralyzed or too weak to hold myself up. You roll the 2 dice against a difficulty determined by the GM. As you can see from this list, it goes from 2 to 12, which represents easy to legendary. You roll the 2 dice, and if one or both dice are equal to or higher than the difficulty, you succeed. I'm still debating if there should be a critical success, if both dice are equal to or higher. I might also have a fumble result if both dice get a 1. Why is this a major advance in my game? I've had this mechanic for a long time. Well, I'm expanding this mechanic to a lot more stuff, and I start with taking damage. Every character has a health die, which determines how much health the character has. I want everyone to start with a d12 health die. I justify this by that everyone is a human, or dwarf, if I decide that, so they have the same health. It isn't completely realistic, but I don't care. The other justification is that you only have 5 wounds. If you take damage, your health die is reduced to a d10. The next time, a d8, etc. And 5 wounds is a very small number, so combat is very deadly, and I don't want it to be more deadly by having a lower die for weaker characters. When you take damage, you use your health die as the primary die. But what about the secondary die? The secondary die is meant to be something that helps the character. In the case of taking damage, it's of course armor. Therefore, every time you take damage, you roll the health die and armor die and roll it against a damage value. The damage will be between 2 and 12. Any higher damage than that is an automatic wound. In the same fashion as with ability rolls, you roll the health and armor die. If one or both are equal to or higher than the damage, you deflect the blow. If not, you take damage, your health die is reduced to a d10 or a d8, d6, etc. The fun part with this is that I can change the secondary die to whatever suits the situation, and it becomes a saving throw. If you, for instance, drown or strain yourself in a way, you don't use armor. you instead use the body attribute die. Use the mind die if you suffer mental damage or stress. You can also use other skills or attributes for different situations, but I have to admit I haven't actually figured out any yet. Rolling the health and sense die could be some sort of sensory overload damage, but rolling health and charm just seems weird at the moment, so I have to think about what these saving throws really mean, and I'm not going to use every possible combination. This system with primary and secondary die can also be used in my magic system. If you recall the video, I'm modeling the magic system after my inventory system, where I have 6 slots which you can fill with magic things. The interesting thing here is the ingredients. Having 1 slot of ingredients give you a D4, 2 ingredients D6, 3 gives D8, etc. Every time you cast a spell and you use ingredients to cast, you take the magic die as your primary die and whatever the spell requires as your secondary die. It could be a skill, your mind attributes, maybe your sense attribute, even your armor die in some circumstances. Now, the other way to fill the slots are with the class-specific items such as runes and iron, or artifacts, which will also generate a magic die or alter a magic die. There's a lot of things that I can play with here. I'm just very happy that I've found a way to tie all my systems together. Now, ability checks, health checks, saving throws, and spellcasting can have the same resolution mechanic. Also, if all these stats are given as dice, the GM is free to mix and match whichever primary or secondary die they want for any situation. One thing I literally thought of now is that of money. Now, I'll probably talk about this in another episode, but I want to run currency a little differently. I like how it's done in Open Legend RPG, and my idea is very similar. Without going too much into detail, I want to have loot bags, as I've sort of talked about here. You roll them against a difficulty which is given by the value of the item you want. Now, with this system, you can roll your loot bag, aka your money, as a primary die and your charm as your secondary die to see if you're able to haggle on the price. I could also use the inventory system for supply rolls as well. You get the idea. I've somehow managed to tie all these ideas of mine together into one cohesive system. I'm gonna have to playtest this soon and actually write the rules in more detail, but that will be later. So what do you think about this system? Let me know down in the comments if you've ever had your mechanics come together in this way, or you purposely designed a mechanic to fit all situations. Or maybe you've done both. While you're down there, like and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to share this with your GM, they'll probably like it. See ya!
What?